Picture this. I, a professional talker, visit a village where silence is the main attraction. I'd expected peace and quiet. Gentle breezes, maybe a bird or two. Instead, I got a silence so deep it felt like my ears had gone on strike. This wasn't just quiet, it was Olympic level, the kind that makes you wonder if you've wandered onto a film set after everyone's left. My arrival was unnerving. The taxi driver pointed at the village sign, probably reading, "Welcome to Hushington Abandoned Sound," then sped off like he was escaping a ninja library. My suitcase wheels sounded like jet engines on the gravel. The air was thick with unsound. Even a tumbleweed would have been too noisy. No traffic, no barking dogs, no children. Just a silence that wrapped around you like a heavy blanket. I started questioning my senses. Was this real? My internal monologue felt like it was shouting in a cathedral. I checked my phone. Full bars, but no one to call who wouldn't ask why I was whispering. My ears searched desperately for any sound. A pin drop would have been a symphony, but there was nothing. Just me, my loud thoughts, and a village that had mastered the art of existing without a peep. I took a deep breath, which sounded like a hurricane, and braced myself for an expedition into the unknown, the center of quiet. Hushington looked like a storybook village cobblestone streets, flower boxes, a brook that didn't dare babble. The main rule, thou shalt not make a sound. Not a whisper, not a hum, not even a sigh. The enforcement, looks. A raised eyebrow from an old lady, a headshake from the baker, more effective than any shouted reprimand. A dropped coin could trigger a communal wince so synchronized it'd make Olympic divers jealous. Children played in silent ballets, dogs wore booties, and even cats tiptoed. The infrastructure was built for silence-oiled hinges, soft closing gates, and bicycles gliding by like phantoms. No noisy pubs or markets, just serene reading gardens and contemplation spots. It was as if all the noisy bits of life had been quietly banished to another dimension. The commitment was impressive, if a bit bonkers. I wondered if they had silent fireworks for special occasions or if celebrations involved just more intense staring. Even the air seemed to hush you, as if the village itself was holding its breath. The oddity was mesmerizing. A society where the best sound was no sound at all. My city brain struggled to compute, but I couldn't help but admire their dedication. Waking up in Hushington, I thought I'd gone deaf. The silence was the point, but it was still jarring. Breakfast was a pantomime of pointing and smiling. I mastered the universal gesture for, "More coffee, please." Daily routines unfolded with balletic grace. No phone calls, no radios, just focused, silent work. I wondered how productive I'd be if my office adopted this policy. Though I doubt my colleagues would last 5 minutes. Communication was an art. Nods, smiles, and dramatic facial expressions replaced words. Buying a postcard turned into a game of charades, ending with the shopkeeper's knowing smile. Evenings were surreal. Families gathered for silent board games or stargazing, the silence deepening as dusk settled. No clatter of dinner, just the soft glow of windows. It was peaceful, but a little eerie, like living in a dollhouse under a vow of quiet. I found myself whispering just to remember my own voice. The silence was both comforting and unsettling, a constant companion. I started to appreciate the strange serenity, even as it unnerved me. Learning to speak Hushingtonese was like emergency mime school. My first attempts at communication were disasters, flapping my arms for directions, getting by on smiles and eyebrows. For anything complex, my gesture vocabulary failed me. Arguments here must be legendary, silent, intense, and terrifying. I saw kids resolve a toy dispute with stomps, pouts, and a shared glare that could curdle milk. Social gatherings were fascinating. A community meeting where consensus was reached through posture shifts and exchanged glances. It made me think, maybe the loudest voices aren't the ones that matter. My own social attempts were met with patient, amused smiles and the occasional encouraging pat. I relied on a notepad to avoid interpretive dance marathons. Ordering food became a point-and-pray adventure, hoping I wasn't picking the local delicacy of fermented silent turnips. The villagers were patient, their kindness shining through the quiet. They'd seen flustered tourists before, desperately miming for Wi-Fi passwords. I learned to appreciate the art of silent connection, and I realized, sometimes the best conversations happen without a single word. The real challenge in Hushington isn't language, it's your own body betraying you. Modern life makes us noisy coughs, sneezes, and worst of all, stomach rumbles. My first stomach growl in the silent library sounded like a beast escaping. Heads turned, I wanted to disappear. Suppressing a sneeze became a high-stakes battle. I nearly imploded my sinuses rather than break the silence. I carried tissues as emergency sound dampeners, always on high alert against my own biology. Dropping a pen was like setting off fireworks in a monastery. Every villager froze to pinpoint the culprit. I became hyper-aware of every sound jacket rustle, shoe creak, sweet wrapper crinkle. I moved like a bomb disposal expert, tiptoeing everywhere. The psychological toll was real. So focused on not making noise, I almost forgot to enjoy the silence. It's like being told, don't think of a pink elephant. Suddenly, that's all you can think about. I gained a new respect for mime artists. Their silent expressiveness is a superpower. For us mortals, Hushington was a test of self-control, and a source of silent embarrassment. But it also made me appreciate the little noises of life I'd always taken for granted. Silence, it turns out, is a lot louder than you'd expect. Coming from a city of car horns and sirens, Hushington felt like another planet. My ears, used to constant noise, were first bored, then confused. Where was the comforting chaos? Travel mishaps became miming marathons. Locked out of my room, I had to act out my idiocy for the guest house owner. Tripping over a cobblestone meant a silent sprawl and the collective gaze of villagers. My dignity evaporated without a sound. The contrast between urban cacophony and Hushington's stillness was stark and hilarious. I kept reaching for my phone, expecting notifications that never came. Here, silence was the status quo, not a sign of impending doom. I realized how much noise we filter out and how dependent we are on sound cues. After a few days, my internal alarm faded, replaced by a new awareness, the scent of rain, the play of light, the subtlety of expressions. My brain recalibrated, learning to appreciate a different kind of input. Still, a small part of me missed the roar of a motorbike. Old habits die hard. You'd think a silent village would be dull, but Hushington's social scene was uniquely baffling. I found a silent book club, people reading together, sharing smiles and frowns in companionable quiet. Then, a silent disco villagers dancing to music only they could hear, each lost in their own rhythm. No thumping bass, just the soft scuff of feet and the occasional silent laugh. Charades was a village-wide sport, and I suspect competitive staring was too. I saw two old men locked in an unblinking gaze, maybe sharing wisdom, maybe just waiting for the other to crack. Board games were played with intense silent concentration. Monopoly must be brutal here. Celebrations, probably muted clapping, expressive cake eating and handwritten notes. Maybe even silent fireworks, just lights, no bangs. The community spirit was strong, forged in shared silence. It was a different kind of party, but a party nonetheless. Beyond the initial shock, Hushington's quietude brought a surprising clarity. Without constant noise, my thoughts became clearer, less jumbled. A mental defrag. The silence wasn't empty, it was full of potential. The villagers moved with calm, focused presence, listening with their whole attention. It made me realize how much we miss in our noisy worlds, always half-present, distracted. The silence fostered respect for space and environment. Every action was considered, every garden tended. It was as if the absence of noise let them hear the subtle rhythms of life. Of course, sometimes the silence felt vast and a bit overwhelming, forcing me to face my own internal chatter. But even those moments were valuable, pushing me to find comfort in my own skin. It was a challenging piece, but one that became surprisingly addictive. In the quiet, I found a new kind of clarity. And maybe a bit of myself. Leaving Hushington, the return to normal noise was an assault. Car horns, radios, conversations all felt overwhelming. My brain, reprogrammed for quiet, struggled to process the volume of everyday life. I learned I'm capable of elaborate hand gestures and that a rumbling stomach can feel like a declaration of war. More importantly, I learned the value of truly listening not just to others, but to myself and the world. Hushington taught me that communication is more than words, it's in the eyes, the posture, the shared moment. I unlearned the need to fill every silence, the habit of constant phone checking, and my reliance on noise as comfort. The quiet became a strange sort of friend, showing me a slower, more deliberate rhythm of life. Sometimes the most profound things are experienced in silence. Maybe we all need to turn down our volume knob once in a while and savor the quiet. For me, Hushington was a reminder the loudest lessons are learned in the quietest places.